Hey there, friends. Welcome to the Being Brown and Bold podcast. I'm your host, Jess Thomas, and I'm so glad that you're joining us for some more yummy conversations about stepping out of our comfort zone, being bold, and taking chances. Today, I'm chatting with Preeti Waas, the chef owner of Cheeni Indian Food Emporium in Raleigh, North Carolina. From a child in India, fascinated by the alchemy of baking, to a James Beard Best Chef Southeast semifinalist in 2023, one thing has never changed for Preeti: the gratification and joy of feeding people. She is a self-taught cook and baker who is always curious and always hungry. And that's why she's my girl, because same girl, same. It is so great to have you here on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting to get to just chat. I can talk food all day long. I know you can too. So
yes, talk about it, eat it. Yes.
Yep. Cook it. Yep.
So, and yeah, and for me, it's really fun because you're one of my online friends that became friends in real life. And not only did I hear about Cheeni, but physically being there was so fun. So I'm glad that though I can't physically be there and just run over and have your yummy cheese toast, at least I can talk to you about it.
Yes.
So tell us about your name. Like, what does it mean? How to pronounce it properly? We think names are really important because it's attached to who we are. So tell us about your name.
So Preeti means love. It's spelled P-R-E-E-T-I, but pronounced with a T-H sound, so Preeti. And Waas is German-American. That's my husband's last name, which I adopted once we got married. And yes, it's interesting about names because I'm a Sardarni, which we usually have names that, just Preet or Gurpreet, or, that there's always those other parts attached to Jasvinder, or it's all very, I'm sorry, I don't know how to mute the sound on my notifications. Does that bother you in between? Can you hear?
I didn't even hear it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, my aunt thankfully named me Preeti. She insisted to my mother that I would not get one of those long names that she didn't think suited me. And I think Preeti, I sit very well with it. It feels like me.
Yeah, it does feel like you. And I know in America, friends that I've had that have been named Preeti, they're called Pretty over here. So I don't know if you had that at all as like a compliment / teasing thing.
Yes, but it does get tiresome after a while, right? Because don't assign a physical quality to my name when clearly my name it encompasses all of me. It represents me, not, don't assign it to a physical quality.
My sister-in-law, her name is Lovely. And when she was a child, she was very precocious and she used it to her advantage of, my name's Lovely because I'm lovely. But she actually is quite lovely, so.
Oh, that's good.
So when you were little, or actually, can you share a little bit about your cultural heritage and how that informs your life and your work?
Sure. So I belong to the Punjabi community, which is North Indian, but I was born and raised in South India. That's where my father chose to settle. And so having been born in South India, you're from South India, or your family is, and so the vast differences regionally in India. So being North Indian by community, and I know that's hard for Americans to understand because the community is more like the geographical space in which you live, but in India, belonging to a community is belonging to a certain sect or a religion or all of that, right? So being Punjabi is very much at the root of who I am. Not just Punjabi, but Sardarni. So being a Sardar means being a Khalsa, which is we were formed as a military sect, and those tenets and those ingrained values of bravery, fearlessness, embracing the world, service, all of that is taught at a very early age, and that's how that's what you're surrounded by, especially at the Gurdwara, which is our house of worship. So all of that feels very ingrained within me, but also sort of tempered with the mildness of growing up in South India, where it's not, South Indians are known more for their brain, not their brawn. Each community gets assigned these values, whether they happen to be true for most of the community or not. But food-wise, South India has, gosh, so much to offer. And coming from North India, every time we had guests visit, it was always like, oh, we want to eat dosa and sambar and idli, because it felt like they were going to a different country almost.
Mm-hmm.
In India, it's just that vast, especially back then. I'm talking 30, 40 years ago. I'm 50 years old. So my earliest memories are of people coming to South India from North India and feeling like they'd gone to an entirely different country.
Right. I don't think actually, especially in America, people don't understand that concept that, yes, it's a country, India, but it's like an Italian going to France. Like the language is different, the food is different, so even though we're all tan, mostly, it's completely different.
It is completely different, and that leads to what gets defined broadly, just thrown about as Indian cuisine, in Indian restaurant, Indian cuisine. I'm going to chalk it up to lack of enough knowledge, let's put it that way, about what our country is like, what the vastness of it, the sheer variety of it, and the way regional food and dialect can change every 100 kilometers.
Mm-hmm.
Part of who we are.
Yeah.
That also makes us so much more adaptable. It gives our palates are so much more open. And with open palates come open minds is my very firm belief.
That's a great way of putting it. I know that even like I grew up with Chinese food, like there was a local Chinese restaurant, and I loved the food there. And then only later I realized it was Cantonese cuisine. And then I went to China and we went to all different parts, and the food was complete, like some had zero noodles, just rice, and other places had just rice, no noodles, and other places had dumplings. And it's so regional. And I think that's the problem in America when people go to a restaurant with a country name, it's assumed everybody in the country eats this. But even in here, right? I never had biscuits and gravy till I moved to the South. I'd heard about it, but I come from bagel country, and down here, you can't find a good bagel.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, region. And I think that's what's been great, especially in the past few years. I feel like there's been more education out there of learning about things, and as evil as the internet can be, there's some like really great things about bringing the world closer because you can learn more about things. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So when you were little, you grew up in Chennai in Tamil Nadu. What did you imagine your life would be like as an adult?
It was a very narrow view because that's what I was trained to be. Coming from a conservative Punjabi family, I was trained to be a good wife, good sister, who would one day be I was trained to be a good daughter and a good sister who would one day be a good wife and then a good mother. That was it. There was no other ambition assigned.
Mm-hmm.
And only recently have I started talking about this publicly. I come from a very violent household, and it was not a safe household. And really, when I thought about what my life would look like when I was older, all I wanted was to be safe and to be loved. And I know that sounds like a pity party. It's not. That was my truth. That's all I wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, so sorry. I hear this story in our family's heritage, like it all over. And I don't know if that's also, I don't know, in different parts of India or that part of the world, because not just India, the whole controlling women
Yes.
in many ways. Yeah, so that feels familiar.
Mhm.
And I know for us growing up in America, we took, like my parents came from India to the US and they brought back a lot of their cultural expectations. Although my parents were kind of different, like they kind of had a love marriage.
Mhm.
And they also, my dad was very much about assimilation,
Mhm.
especially with food. Like one day he came home, he's like, have you heard of angel hair pasta? Let's make it. I'm like, what is this? So, but anyway, I feel like a lot of, I feel like a lot of Asian homes is based on marriage. Like that's the central focus, right?
Yes.
So growing up here, I was told, and all my friends, that you're not allowed to date. This is the order. You finish your education, then you get a job, then you think about marriage, and then maybe not, you may have a say in your spouse, but you don't actually start dating till you get married, and then you can date your spouse.
That's right.
Does that echo with you too, of what you heard?
100%, except not as much focus on the education or job, certainly not.
Mm.
Is I was supposed to be educated just enough to be considered more marriageable.
Oh, wow.
But not too educated, so it would be intimidating, or that I would marry into a family who had too many expectations. So I was supposed to be just enough.
Yeah. Wow.
Mhm.
I think that's so interesting that like that's how you were raised, because your mom actually did work, right, in Chennai?
She did, but that was out of necessity because my father didn't. And so she had to provide for the family.
Got it.
Mhm.
Wow. So then watching your mom, was that inspirational for you of like, I don't have to sit in the house all day and do housework?
So interestingly enough, she was such a contradiction in terms of what she wanted, what she taught, what she wanted me to be. I haven't got my mother figured out yet.
Hmm.
So it was, yes, she was an entrepreneur and that should have given her more independence. But this was India in the 70s and it didn't give her independence. She had to create this persona of herself that she chose to work, that she chose to follow her passion and open a tailoring shop because that's something she was very good at, not make it look like, oh, poor me, I have to provide for the family, so I'm forced to work. So
Hmm.
others' public perception was very important to her. And so she created that perception around it, which in turn, it taught me just by observation that, oh, this is kind of cool. She gets to call the shots. And all these people look up to her and they flock to the shop and she provides a service for them and she has a community at the shop and things like that, that I sort of absorbed, but I didn't aspire to.
Hmm.
It didn't feel like an aspiration because of what I was being told, which is just do what you're told, get old enough to get married off, and that's that.
Hmm.
So what I was observing and absorbing was different from what I was being told. So that was an odd juxtaposition that I don't know. I did feel, and then my mother would say she was proud. Well, not proud. Indian parents don't say that to their children.
Right.
But she would act proud when on my school vacations and things, I would tell her, well, you can stay home this morning. I'll go open the shop. And here I was, 11 years old, bicycling on my red bicycle, where I think it was like 3-4 miles. I think it was more than that. It was
Wow.
ways away. And I would go on my bicycle or take the bus and go take the big key and undo the padlock and open up the shop and let all the staff in and sit at her desk and feel important.
Yeah.
So
I feel like, knowing what I know of you now, you really caught this, like we teach things are taught and things are caught. You caught the
yes.
whole being independent, taking care of things. And maybe because I've felt this too, like if I don't take care of it, nobody else will.
Yes.
As well as creativity, because you have an artsy side to you, because I've seen the beauty of your shop. I've eaten your food. Your mom's a tailor, which is an art.
Yes.
So I feel like you caught a lot of things from her.
I did. I really and truly did. As a matter of fact, even Cheeni Indian Food Emporium is a nod to her entrepreneurship, because the name of her shop was Delhi Emporium.
Growing up the way you did, when it came to your career, because at some point you switched over from like, I'm getting ready to be a subservient wife, to I'm going to do something. Did you have any difficulties with choosing a vocational path?
So when I came to the States, very unexpectedly, that's not something that was in the plan at all. And so when I came to the States, and also very unexpectedly married my husband, was not in the plan at all for me to have a love marriage and to marry a white man 2 weeks after our date. So none of that was in the plan. So for the first time, I felt like I was not going to listen to what anybody expected of me. I got to do what I wanted to do. And that kind of freedom is exhilarating. And so vocation is not what I was thinking. I was just too caught up in being a newlywed and being a new person in America and exploring this life that I had never envisioned for myself or set out to achieve, really. So in the beginning, it was more of so in talking to each other and having those conversations, my husband and I, it was important for him to be the breadwinner. And so I took a job, any job, whatever I could utilize my skill set to do, just so that he could finish his education and set on his career path. Because then when we had babies, I was going to stay home because I wanted to stay home and take care of them. So there was no career aspiration beyond that at all. Just really being a mom and being available to my children was incredibly important to me. And that's what I chose to do. That was our mutual decision. Now, once I had my first daughter and stayed home with her, I loved it. I would not change anything about it. What I did find is that it was extremely isolating. And I also found that I missed adult interaction. But then, as so often happens, the situation in which you find yourself presents ideas for problems you didn't know you were going to have.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not a problem necessarily. I just remember being part of mom's groups because I wanted to feel included. I want my child to have play dates and all of that. And where would they all want to meet? At the McDonald's Playhouse. And it was so, I would gag just thinking about going. And then the kids would all be playing and I would not want to eat at McDonald's.
Right.
Not because I'm a snob. Actually, yes, I am. I'm a food snob. But I just couldn't stop. It didn't taste good to me. And when something doesn't taste good to me, I don't want to eat it. I don't eat for the sake of eating.
Right.
And the experience around food, the taste of it, the preparation of it, all of that is important to me. So I began to fantasize in the times that I was doing mindless stuff, chores, whatever around the house. I would start to fantasize about a place where people could come and it would be family friendly, but the food would be good. It didn't be fast food, for it to be a place where children could come with their moms. And so I started to envision a space like that and started writing a business plan. I had no plans of going into business. I just started writing a business plan. I guess to not let my mind atrophy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was always a place where people came to anytime there was a celebration, anytime there was anything, it was always, oh, let's go to Preeti and John's because Preeti will cook. And, so I fell into that trap of, oh my gosh, you're such a good cook, you should open a restaurant.
We are all reaping the benefits of you making that hard choice. Tell us, I've been to your restaurant, tell us about this one hanging that you have. I think it's a mirror where there's an inscription on it.
Yes. So when I was putting together the space, of a friend of mine who's in marketing, and she was also going to be setting up her little her products in our little bazaar area. And I love the way her mind works. She's always thinking about things. And she said to me, I read or I heard an interview of yours, and you said, all I want to do is feed people good food.
Yeah.
That needs to be on the wall in big letters that people need to know when they walk in the door, that's what they're getting. That expectation needs to be set already. So I listened to her and put my own quote on that mirror. It's not very conspicuous.
One of the reasons I fell in love with Preeti is because of who she is. So yes, you have the gifts and talents to cook, but I think you and I are similar in that, and people laugh when I say this, we have the gift of eating, meaning we know what tastes good, right?
Yes.
And when I look at people who, because I have met people who like don't care that much about food, like they'll eat cereal every night. Not that cereal's bad, but like it doesn't matter to them. They don't have our gift. Or is it a curse? I think it was a meme that it's like one like curse of being Indian is we have this expectation that every meal should be absolutely delicious.
Correct.
So
Correct.
all that to say, you don't want to put yourself front and center, which I understand that, but like part of that humility and about you is what's so endearing, because going, for those of you not gone yet, which you have to go, like I literally made a trip to Raleigh, North Carolina just to come here, which was glorious. Part of who your DNA to love people, and you do it in multiple ways. One is creating an environment physically when you walk in where people, like everyone I've heard from and everybody that posts about you, they feel that love when they walk in. The food is amazing. And I feel like, I don't know if you've seen any of Taste of the Nation by Padma Lakshmi, but like she talks about American food, which is all of the immigrants who have come and brought some traditions, brought some new things, mixed some things together and married them. So, oh my word, you have to eat her desserts, because her desserts, whether they're straight up like traditional, like your oatmeal cookie, like I'm an oatmeal cookie connoisseur, and I was like, oh, well, this is amazing. But then your mango lassi, and I like helped you make it that one time, and you put an ingredient, I'm like, I did not know that goes in there, because that's not native to where, like my family never made mango lassi. And so I was like,
I never made mango lassi in India.
Yeah, because it's kind of a luxury thing, because you're putting like delicious things in there that is not like our everyday food, right?
And not just that, in India, lassi is a cooling drink. It is a healthy cooling drink. It is not this thick milkshake like very sweet, My preference still to date is a thin lassi with salt and pepper, not the sweet lassi,
Yeah. With a chili pepper?
I'm sorry?
With a chili pepper in it?
Yes, with a chili pepper and with mint. I mean, it depends on what, or like that South Indian more, which is the buttermilk with the curry leaves and the black mustard seeds. And so to me, that is still lassi, right? But this is what every Indian restaurant in America seems to have. And not that I fall in with what's expected of me. I tend to do the opposite. But when we first made mango lassi and it was that delicious, I really thought, why would I keep that from people? We'll just call. So yes, it's mango lassi on the menu, but when people ask us what it is, people who are unfamiliar, I tell them it's drinkable dessert. Or,
That's perfect.
or I tell them it's like the OG protein shake. With all
Really?
I mean, really, it is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I say.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So you've lived in different parts of the United States. So I'm guessing you were not around a lot of South Asians, like more other homogenous cultures. Is that your experience?
Here in the States,
Yeah, being in the States.
being in the States, being part of a mixed race couple meant that no, I was not a part of the South Asian community, especially in Los Angeles, especially because of where we lived. Out on the in the outskirts in the suburbs, and there were not a lot of Indians there, or any really a lot of South Asians, I should say. But then when we lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma, there was a smaller but very mighty community of South Asians and Indians specifically. I was very glad for that community. I have some great friends from that community. My children got to grow up with other children of South Asian descent, even though they're half white.
Yeah.
And I was able to expose, I was happy that they got some exposure of their culture because I wasn't able to provide that on my own family here.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. That's great. Yeah. We raised our kids in rural Appalachia. They did not have that. And they just yearned for it so much. Which is funny because I was born and raised here. My parents came a year before I was born. And I was the opposite, where I'm like, I want to be as American and non-Indian as possible. So it's always like what you don't have is.
But also, just to be fair, 50, 40 years ago, when you were 10, 11, and you'd be in school, being Indian was not a good thing in America.
Yeah.
School as an Indian, as somebody who has darker skin and who took funny looking things in their lunchbox, was not popular. It actually caused children to shun you.
Like I said, my dad was progressive. And so I actually never took Indian food. I don't even think they ever tried to send Indian food. I think they watched commercials and TV like, oh, children in America take sandwiches and, so I ended up doing that. And I had a love affair with Doritos as a child, and my parents like gave me Doritos as a kid growing up. So I did not have the traditional immigrant child experience, but all my friends had that experience.
Sure, and my children being half Indian, for me, when I saw what their friends ate, I was appalled. I'm going to be unpopular amongst the Americans listening because it sounds like I'm judgmental. But I did judge the contents of their lunchboxes because, to me, it's like, where's the nutrition? Where's the brain food? How is that going to keep my child full? What are they eating? And here I was sending parantha rolls filled with aloo sabji and things like that with my kids. And it made me very happy that Amy, especially my older daughter, would eat that all very happily. Till third, fourth grade, where kids started teasing her about it. And when she rejected taking Indian food to school in her lunchbox, I know that broke my heart. Like I remember feeling that, no, I'm losing her to a very child. Although she looks like me, looks very Indian, is so very American in her tastes and all of that, especially when she was younger. She's all about the Doritos, the fast food, they give her all the hot dogs, all of that. So
yeah. I know that when I started, because I actually didn't know, you said you're a self-taught cook, same, magazines, Food Network, all that stuff. Because I rejected the notion that in order to prepare to be a wife, I need to learn how to cook. I was like, well, this girl's going to be single then because I didn't learn how to cook, even though I love to eat. And I got into the culinary world through my marketing, advertising jobs. Like that's how I was introduced really to the world of food. But then raising the kids, I think the one thing that stuck with me, even though I didn't prefer eating/cooking the Indian foods that I grew up with, is cooking from scratch. And I think the whole concept of like, buying frozen meals and things from cans. Like that was such a foreign concept that when I started to learn how to cook, and I would go to mom groups and potlucks and people are bringing things made with canned cream of something soup.
Right.
And like, I was like, wait, what? Why don't you just use a potato? Why don't you?
Right, right, right. So, yeah, I don't want to, my food snobbishness is not where I look down upon people as much as I feel sorry for the fact that Americans were sold this lie of TV dinners, of convenience, and that's what's carried on. And now we know how much harm it has caused the general population with preservatives and sodium and, all of those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So knowing now the harm that it caused then, it really made me sad that they bought into this lie. We continue to buy into lies every single day.
Mm-hmm.
The whole low carb this and that, low fat. And I remember a friend of mine, Indian, who moved to the States, eating rice crackers because low fat, like no fat rice crackers as a meal substitute. And I remember asking her, I said, why don't you just eat a roti, but eat one roti, don't eat two.
Right.
And she's like, oh, no, that is carbs. I'm like, what are you eating though?
Right.
What is your body getting out of that rice cracker?
Yeah.
So even not having delved into nutrition in the food world at the time, common sense told me, if you eat something that's going to keep you hungry, it's not giving your body what it needs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's one of the reasons why I've never considered myself an Indian cook, and from India, born and raised, very rooted in India. I love Indian food, from all regions of India. But I rejected the idea of being an Indian cook. And being married to a Caucasian man, I was happy I got to experiment with what I made every day. Because even back in India, we didn't eat just Indian food every day. In that way, our family at home was progressive in that we cooked various Chinese food from various regions of China and Italian food. And it's really funny, my niece was making fun of me because she found a cookbook of mine back in India. When I say cookbook, it was a journal really where I wrote down recipes of things that because back then, you didn't grow up in India, but we didn't have food magazines or anything like that. I remember going to a cooking class when I was 10 years old, taught by an auntie in her home.
Wow.
Yeah, where we sat on the floor and she taught us how to cook. There were like 3 people in the class. And I remember writing down those recipes, and my niece sent me a photo of that, and it was for macaroni hot pot.
Oh, wow.
And she was like, what the hell is macaroni hot pot, Pooji? I'm like, I don't know. But and everybody liked it.
Yeah. Maybe it's like a casserole equivalent.
I think so. But of course, because an Indian auntie was teaching it, there were black mustard seeds in it. And then,
right. Yeah.
But I feel like I've meandered from what we were talking about. But coming back to the fact that I didn't consider myself an Indian cook because I could do so much more than Indian food.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, because I'm not as good a cook as so many of the people in my family, I was more the baker and they were more the cooks.
Mm.
It was not encouraged for me to go make Indian food. When I went to the kitchen, it was, oh, can you make this or can you make that? That was not Indian. So
yeah.
I now own a cafe where I offer regional Indian foods.
But before that, you offered more baked things, or I'm trying to remember, did you have made to order bakery, or was it
I did. But in Tulsa, I opened my first cafe, and that was all American. It was called Lulu's Sweet Shop. And I did it after my husband's maternal grandmother, Lucille, who was the most loving, wonderful woman. I mean, she embraced me with open arms in her home, to the family. So I would bake with grandma. And so I wanted that nostalgia. And not to mention, and this actually leads away from food and into more uncomfortable topics, which is that I was expected to assimilate and leave my Indianness behind. No matter what I looked like, I was expected to now be American. I lived in America, was married to an American. So I didn't reject it, but I did not bring to the forefront or talk about or offer anything Indian in my first food service.
Wow.
But that was also a point of pride for me that I could make anything.
Yeah.
As long as it tasted good, what did it matter who was making it?
Right. Right. And that's part of you being you, of like, you're still loving people through your food.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
They love me back. They love the food, but not me.
It
was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was very, man, I try not to look back on those times because it makes me, not everybody was like that, but the vast majority was the, oh, bless your heart.
Yes.
And, oh, you cook this? Oh, who's back in the kitchen? Yeah. Yeah.
It's so funny because my experience, I mean, that was also how long, like 30 years ago? Like my experience is I moved to the South 20 years ago. It was almost the opposite here, where nobody expected me to cook anything Indian. And if I introduced it, they're like, oh, that's it. Almost like people were trying to be so safe that they didn't want to offend. So they just didn't say anything and accepted whatever I did. So when I did my personal chef, I offer a menu, and I think I had 20 choices, and one of them was Indian, and no one ever picked it. And then when I would cook on our local TV station, I didn't start out doing Indian things, but then I slowly was like, I'm going to make an Indian chili, but it's really keema mutton, right?
Of course.
So, but at the end, I put that educational component of like, this is actually not Americanized. This is traditional in North India. This is what they eat, but look how delicious it is. So yeah, it's interesting the way people react to us and what they expect. It feels inconsistent.
It is inconsistent, and not only from their view of us, but how we feel about ourselves. Inconsistency in where do we belong? Where do I plug myself in? And thank God for getting older, because I feel no need to conform, belong, anything. I can walk into a space and choose whether I want to integrate myself into it or not. I don't stand on the periphery waiting to be invited, feeling bad if I wasn't.
Right. I think that's the good thing about being in our 50s.
Yes.
And you've had a lot of hard things that you've gone through. So like that wisdom that has come from all these experiences and the confidence you've built in yourself, because you know who you are now.
Yes. And I actually like this person.
Yes. So all you youngins who are listening, the 50s are great.
Yes. Yes.
There's some things you're like, I literally don't care. I don't care what you think. I don't care if the situation, I literally just don't care.
And a lot of times I don't care who I'm going to offend with what I'm going to say. I think if I stop to think about it, it's also they didn't care before they said what they said to me. They sat in that place of privilege or comfort or really ignorance in being able to say whatever, because they knew there were not going to be any repercussions. Not knowing what that would do to the person they were talking to. But having gone through things like that, I feel as if I'm actually glad for those experiences because of how well-rounded and empathetic and aware and emotionally intelligent it makes somebody like me.
Do you know Brene Brown? Have you read anything by her?
I've heard. I'm not really.
She's great. She
I
talks
keep
about
hearing.
this concept of when you're with people and they either are hurtful or whatever, they're not reacting positively to you. If we just go in with the, you know what, I think they're doing the best that they can with what they know and what they have, and it's not going to change. So I'm just going to put these boundaries because it may be, and it depends on the person and the type. It could be like, that person's not going to be part of my life anymore. It could be, okay, I love that person, but they're just too broken themselves. And I don't have this expectation that they're going to take care of me. So I'm just going to like distance myself. And I think at our age, like, that's very true, that we can punish ourselves. We can continue to feel bad, like,
Yes.
Why are they like this? But if we're like, you know what, they can't help it.
We can take it upon ourselves or assign it to them where it belongs.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's changed for me is that over time, I reject the idea that the customer is always right.
Yep.
Reject that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Because some people are just not nice. Some people just don't belong in my space if they're going to disrespect the space they've walked into, or especially disrespect one of my staff or me. I don't have to want them back in my space.
Right.
They can go somewhere else.
Right. Because it's your space, and people who know you and love you and or just love your product, whichever, they're going to come back. Yes.
And the thing is, especially these days, we're just so open to questions and conversations and all of that. If there's something you don't enjoy or don't like, or instead of rejecting it, if you would ask a question, we're more than happy to start a conversation. Reject us outright for not immediately fitting into the box that you have already assigned us to before you walked in the door. That idea I reject wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I have to take a minute. My phone's blowing up and I want to make sure this.
So I had the honor and privilege to be a sous chef with you one day when I came out to Raleigh. It was so fun. And as I see you there, like, you are in your modes, because there are times where you're like, we want to provide the best, right? But in order to do that, you have to be disciplined and do the thing, right?
Yes.
And I came in of like, you just tell me where to go and what to do.
Right.
And you're such a go-getter. And then you go outside to the front of the house and you see people and you're like, so you're in love with your customer. I think that's why people love coming out there, because they feel that you personally feel that love for you. And you're so good at training your staff, your front of the house staff portray that same thing. Like, they are welcoming people and they were awesome. But my point is, you're such a go-getter. Therefore, what does rest look like for you?
I only allow myself rest when I get into bed at the end of the night. Because if I stop during the day at any point, I'm not sure I can get back up and get going, keep going. Sometimes physically, that's just how it is. Also, the energy of the day feeds me. Even if I'm that exhausted, because it's a physically demanding, exhausting environment. My rest is getting into bed, reading a book, and honestly not talking to anybody.
Yes. No, that's really good. So then, outside of the food world, what are things that are life-giving for you, whether it's activities or, I don't know, just in general? What, when you think of like, oh, this is filling me, because we know obviously food, and it's not just the food, it's the whole package of hospitality. So outside of that, what else is life-giving for you?
The sea, the ocean. I miss it. I miss it so much. I was born and raised in a coastal town, and like seawater runs in my veins. I'm just the water, pretty much any form of it, but especially the ocean. I yearn for it. And it's so sad that I live 2.5 hours away from the beach. And there have been years where I've not even gone out to the coast one time in the
Wow.
and that has felt very draining for me. So to be able to just go lose myself at the sea, I would do that as often as I could.
Yeah. That's great. You are living that's my husband's dream too. Like in retirement, he would love to be on the water.
So interestingly enough, I never considered myself a mountain person. And my older daughter went to school in the mountains, at Appalachian State, actually. And I don't know if it was associated with knowing that I was going to get to see her, or whether that just became a part of it. But as we would make that 3-hour drive west, anytime I started to see that first little swell of the Blue Ridge, I would start to fill up, because something about the mountains now also feeds me. And again, like, I don't know if I can separate that from going to see my child, or the mountains have just started calling me. I don't know which it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can also test try it and come visit me, because I literally live in the mountains. And
I would love to do that.
Make food, eat food,
yes,
and look at the mountains. Yes. We used to live in California right before we moved to Tennessee, and we were like a mile away from the Pacific Ocean. And when we knew we were going to move to Tennessee, we were like, I don't know how we're going to do this. But then we came to the mountains and we're like, it's not the ocean, but it's pretty nice.
Yes. I also feel like nature calls to you in different ways and feeds you in different ways, like the food nature provides, because the ocean, I think, calms a restless soul, or it mimics the restlessness inside of you and sort of calms it, but also calls you to adventure.
Yeah.
You know, being on the high seas, there's something about that feeds a restlessness in people. Can be good. But the mountains, on the other hand, depends on the phase in life in which you are, or what you need to feed you emotionally, or even externally. I feel like they just calm you down. They take you to this place of height, of literal height, but also heights within your mind. You tend to scale things in your mind that I feel like I think differently by the sea and differently in the mountains. It hits different parts, I guess. Yeah.
No, I can definitely like emotionally feel that. Yeah. So as you have encountered so many cultures, like in your Punjabi home, in Tamil Nadu, in the US, in different, the West Coast. I don't know, is Oklahoma I don't know what Oklahoma is. Whatever it is.
They don't know what it is, because they consider themselves Southern, but Southerners reject the idea of Oklahoma being Southern.
Okay. Oklahomian.
Yes.
And now in the South. So you've geographically been so many places, culturally so many places, but also faith-wise, like the religion of your forefathers is different than what you experienced in Tamil Nadu, which is what, it's all different. And then the South in America. And so like separating organized religion from like spirituality and faith, is there any like faith or belief system that's informed your outlook in life?
Yes, I carry Sikhism, the principles of Sikhism very, very deep within me. Whether I rejected it for a certain time, because again, the organized religion part of it, the rules always, I tend to rail against or resist rules. I've always been that sort of person, and followed them for a while, but the older I got, where I am currently, Sikhism teaches you service, that service to others is above self. And I feel like that is me. I not above self anymore, but but service, yes, is very important.
Yeah.
And the idea of I'm very spiritual. I'm not religious.
Mhm.
So the religion of humanity, if you would, is what I subscribe to the most.
Mhm. Mhm.
Is people are mostly good. I choose to see the good in people until they show me otherwise. I will treat them like I want to be treated until they treat me like I should not be treated.
Mhm.
And I believe Mother Nature is what is. It provides and informs so much of who we are, why we're here, and yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. Okay. I know I can talk to you for hours, but we need to
Yes.
start closing. So you are a James Beard semifinalist. Like, how has that experience like been for you, knowing that what you want to do is feed people?
So I'm glad you ended that question in that manner, because in its simplest form, getting the attention as a James Beard semifinalist means I get to feed more people.
Mm,
So
yes.
that's great.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. We got to feed more people than I had ever anticipated after the news broke.
Yeah.
And unmanageable. We were not ready. We couldn't scale up that quickly. And so, of course, we had several mishaps because of it. But for the most part, people have been understanding. And the ones that don't understand and would judge a restaurant based on the immediate aftermath of something like that, they clearly don't understand. And that's okay. That's all right. But so it's allowed me to feed more people. I hope it'll continue to allow me to feed more and more people, because at the very heart of it, A, that makes me happy, and B, that means I can keep people employed and keep the lights on and rent paid.
Yeah.
That is a simple practicality of it. But on the other hand, what it has opened up for me, which I'm thrilled about, is that it has opened doors for me where I only saw windows and I was on the outside looking in.
Mm.
So I'm now invited into spaces that were not that I aspired to necessarily, but I looked at from afar and I thought, that's so cool, they get to go do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not somebody who chases fame or searches out famous people. Fame is not what attracts me. It's what people are famous for. And so, yes, it's celebrity chefs, but I'm not enamored by all celebrity chefs. I'm enamored and intrigued by and want to know the people who, for them, it's all about their craft. And they happen to become famous because they were so good at their craft.
Right.
So being able to now be in spaces with those folks, that excites me, because that means I get to learn more. I get to observe. I get to hone my, hopefully with them,
Mm-hmm.
just learn from them. That's very exciting to me.
That is exciting. I'm so happy that you got the accolade, because you are being recognized for what you have put your heart, soul, blood, tears, like everything. And it's so great. Yeah. If anybody didn't guess, I'm like totally fangirling.
Well, that's funny, because I'm usually that fangirl person, right? For the people who, again, like I said, I don't chase anything, but or people, but I admire people who are fantastic at their craft.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And one thing I will say is that we talked about this imposter syndrome before, and I'm trying to move past that idea of having imposter syndrome. But I will say that this was so completely unexpected that it really did take me very much by surprise. And I kept questioning why. Why was I picked? Why am I on that list? I've quit asking why. I'm just happy that somebody saw the value in home cooking. Because that's all I am, is a good home cook. And for that to become important, for that to be given importance, I will take that all day long.
Yeah. Well, you definitely deserve it. What would you say to 18-year-old Preeti based on what you know now in any aspect of your life?
I would say, don't despair. There is so much out there, and you don't know what could be around the corner for you. Don't despair.
And if there's any listeners that are hesitant about making a bold move, what would you say to them?
Just do it. It's not just the Nike catchphrase. It is, you don't want to get to a point in your life where you're wishing you had, instead of saying, I did, and gosh, I wish I had not done that, but I'm glad I did this part of it. And based on the title of your podcast, right, Jess, it's bold is a very big part of it. And boldness looks different for different people. For somebody, it might be considered too bold to step outside their house without a head covering on. For somebody, it might mean that they're jumping out of a plane with a parachute on. So boldness does not look the same for everyone. So don't look for those outwardly bold looking moves. Anything that you choose to do to step outside of your comfort zone that feels slightly fearful to you, that is also bold, and just do it. Because when you do the first bold thing, the next bold thing becomes a little bit easier.
Dropping like pearls of wisdom here. Yeah, that is so good. Yes, to wrap up, is there anything coming up for you or the restaurant that you would like to share?
We do have, I have again, speaking about being in spaces that I would not have been invited to before, I'm a participating guest chef in an Appalachian food festival, which is, yeah, so that's exciting to me, to be invited to a space like that. I get to go attend FAB in Charleston, which is, you're saying pearls of wisdom, this is a deluge of wisdom. FAB, it's pretty fantastic. It's a concentrated 2 days with just women in the industry, in the hospitality industry, and the connections, the wisdom, the boldness on display. My goodness. So FAB really feeds me, and I'm really looking forward to that. Not to mention the food in Charleston. That also calls to me. And what's coming up with Cheeni, not specifically just in June. I'm going to be perfectly honest and say, I just hope that we are able to survive and that we're still here, because it's the restaurant industry and it's brutal.
Yeah.
And it's month to month, and we've not even been open for an entire year yet. So I'm not going to, and this is not me speaking doom and gloom, this is me being pragmatic. And even further than that, I will say this, in the past month or so, the number of people who have asked me, so when are you opening the next location? Please open in Charlotte, please open here, please open there. And I'm not closed off to anything. So if anybody has funds to invest and you want a plan that I think is a good one and that is replicable, bring it to me. I'm open to anything and everything.
Yeah, I love that about you, because you have this adventurous spirit that just lives life, and it's amazing. So thank you so much for sharing about your life with us. This was great. I'm so glad that you joined us.
Thank you for having me. This was a really great conversation.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Being Brown and Bold. We're going to be back here next Tuesday with another awesome conversation. I hope you enjoyed this one and got some encouragement. So till then, be wise and be bold.